Hello and welcome to this Astrenti case study analysis video where we'll be going through the industry analysis for our pre-scene company Happy Plays, who is our toy retailer for the November and February 2022 and 2023 sitting. Now, as you can see, we've got this fairly long document. It's about 70 pages long, but I assure you this video will not take a awful long time to get through, as what I intend to do is basically go through the industry pack, cover its broad points, go through a few examples, so that way then you've got basically the summarized, abridged version of the industry document that you could potentially use then in the exam. So what is the purpose of this analysis? Well, the whole point is to really give you an awareness of the industry, because the examiners do actually look for, to an extent, real-world application of information to your answers. If you are able to directly link a bit of business advice or even justify your business points, okay, with real-world industry knowledge, then that actually augments your answer. It makes the examiner want to give you more marks. Now, does that mean in the mark scheme it explicitly says includes industry examples? No. No, it doesn't. But the whole point is that you want to impress the examiner, and the examiner is going to be more willing to give you marks, especially for justified answers, if you can give real-world examples, precedents, if you might say, of when that has happened. Now, as a requirement, you need to remember that you are the financial manager at Happy Plays' head office. This means that as the financial manager, you are in charge of providing business advice. You're in charge of implementing senior management decisions. And your senior manager is Young May Quinn, as we know from the pre-scene analysis. So the key to maximizing your MCS marks is to not only have a good working knowledge of the pre-scene and the company, but it's also being able to relate that to relevant industry information. Not everything in this document is going to be of absolute use in the exam, but the point is that it helps give you context and an appreciation for what kind of business environment this company, this toy retailer, actually exists in. And the way we've done this is that we've looked at journals, magazines, online articles, all sorts, okay? And we've tried to synthesize the relevant information for you ahead of time. So, with that said, let's begin by looking at Chapter 2, an introduction to the toy industry. Now, this is just a basic history that I'm going to quickly run through. Obviously, the history of the toy industry isn't going to be something you directly reference in the exam. But like I said, once again, context is everything. So, long and short of it, toys have been around for a very long time. It's an incredibly old industry. It starts off with, something like 4000 BC, finding the first toys. Then, of course, more recently, in the past 200 years, we saw the more monopolization or maybe merchandising of toys into something of a industry that can be used to make money. So, of course, we have the introduction of things like building blocks for children. We have the introduction of board games as well in the early 20th century. And then into the 1950s and 1990s, or 1950s up to the 2000s, we have the introduction of much more, I guess you'd say, branded toys, things that have lasted and everyone knows about. Things like Barbie dolls, Action Men. We've got the fact that George Lucas started capitalizing on things like Star Wars. So this is the introduction of our first sort of like licensed toys based on another property. Prior to this, toys may have been unique, or rather they were designed by a manufacturer, and that was the manufacturer's owned toy brand. After Star Wars, we saw the introduction of toys as licensed products. We also saw toys like Lego come about during the latter half of the 20th century. And then into the 21st now, what we've got is a rise in all sorts of different toys of different categories. As we saw in the pre-scene and as we'll see here, this includes things as traditional like dolls, board games, but now we've also got electronic toys which are designed specifically for educational purposes, preloaded devices. We've obviously got video games now as another alternative. We've even got the marrying of those two together. Physical toys, toy dolls, mixed in with virtual environments to combine the two into a single product. And that's how advanced things are getting. So where does this apply to our precinct company? Well, quite plainly, Happy Plays is not one of these old toy retailers, okay? It's not something that has been around for over a century. It is a relatively new company, and if you know your sort of business development theories, you know there's the concept of innovators and followers, and I guess you might argue that Happy Plays is a follower. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Followers have the ability of using flexibility and hindsight. You know, they're able to adapt to the current circumstances a little bit better than older companies which are bigger, less agile. And Happy Plays has done that, at least from our precinct analysis, because at the end of the day, Happy Plays has been able to survive what has been quite a tumultuous few decades for toy retailers with the internet and growing online retail. You know, we've got the example of Toys R Us, which we'll be sure to mention in this industry analysis, and how the failure of that really shook the toy industry. Well, Happy Plays is doing quite well, and it's because it was able to adapt and really think about how it was going to survive in this new environment. 1992 is a significant, well, 1990 is a significant decade, don't forget, because that's when the internet really proliferated. So you could say that Happy Plays was one of the toy retailers that sort of was brought up in the internet era. Now, as for products, so the global toys and games industry is valued at 120 billion US dollars. And it is currently growing at 9.91%, or compound annual growth rate, and it's expected to grow by that amount between 2020 and 2025. Now, what is driving this growth? Well, popular TV shows is what is driving growth primarily. Things like toys based on popular TV shows. We mentioned Star Wars. Other ones include things like Disney's Frozen. We've got Lego toys that are based on all sorts of different properties and different shows, and you get the idea. It's very hard nowadays to find toys which are complete. Well, I say very hard, it's not too hard, but you often see toys based on properties more than you see original toys nowadays. But then there's also the rise of educational toys. Now with the introduction of software-based toys in that sense, you can try and promote the use of them for educational purposes, because children may prefer to interact with electronic devices a little bit more than try and learn with, say, as a sort of trite example, an abacus. You know, it's not got as much interest as, like, you know, playing a game on an iPad or on a physical device. Then there's also the growth in collectibles. The other thing driving toy growth is collectible toys. So LOL Surprise Dolls is one that has seen significant growth in this area, or is driving one of the types of toys that is driving growth, because the sort of approach of it is it capitalizes on the unboxing trend that's been going on over the last few years. The idea is that these toys are collected by children. They're kind of like Pokemon cards or football stickers, right? And they have found that 15% of toy sales in 2018 in the UK came from collectible toys, just to sort of emphasize that these sort of collectible toys are really easy to sell. And that's important for retailers, because collectible toys like this, which are really small, don't take up much shelf life, but they can be charged. You can charge quite a lot for them, for their size, for their value, for their cost even. And the benefit is that, of course, retailers earn quite a lot of money off of these toys, because they're often bought in large quantities by parents and children. And like I said, they take up very little retail space. And if you've seen the precinct analysis, this is where merchandising can be quite important. You can put these things near the till, make them impulse buys for parents and children. As I said before, licensed properties, so of course things like Star Wars and Marvel themed toys are increasing. Brazil is actually the largest market for licensed toys in particular, exceeding $1 billion US dollars. Then there's of course STEM toys, so going back to education, the introduction or the push for teaching science, technology, engineering and maths to boys and girls is actually pushing the toy industry as well. So it's expected that this particular area of the market will have a compound annual growth rate of 10%. And it's particularly popular in countries like China. Then we have the digitization of toys. So I spoke about this a moment ago. Things like Media Molecule's Dreams, which came out a couple of years ago now. This kind of game was there to sort of allow you to have almost a playground to not only play with programming, but also learn other things like music composition, working with other people on projects. But then there are also more explicitly toy games where you've got things like Lego Dimensions, Skylanders, and Disney Infinity. These three aren't as popular as they once were, but they definitely set a precedent or started setting some sort of trend, because then you got Nintendo's Amiibo devices, which developed the same sort of ideas, but was able to succeed more in this space with them. So the idea of these three, if you're not familiar, is that you basically purchase a model that has a RFID chip inside it, I believe. And what it is, this chip is able to connect to an accompanying device, and that device is able to upload the model into a video game. And then you can use that model in a video game. So it's almost like you're playing with dolls, you're playing with action figures, but these action figures can also be transferred into a game which you can then play on TV screen as well. So there's two parts to it. And for companies like Lego, which tried, and Disney for that matter, which tried to utilize or leverage their toy manufacturing along with their video game knowledge, or try and leverage video game development, try to put the two together essentially. Then the other one is fidget toys. So things like the fidget spinner, as you know, was popular a couple of years ago. You can see that in 2020, toy retail sold over 5 million fidget toys, and this number has continued to grow. And things like TikTok, social media sites like TikTok have really promoted this kind of stuff. So obviously, when it comes to toy retailers like Happy Plays, they need to be conscious of these trends. And so onto the application part then. What Happy Plays needs to be, I say, conscious of is what these trends are. If it doesn't sell STEM toys, maybe it should consider it. If it doesn't sell fidget toys, they're relatively cheap and they sell off the shelves really fast. The only problem with doing that is that other competitors probably have the same idea. Cheap toys that are generic and easy to sell are sold by everyone. The more expensive and unique toys are sold by fewer. So STEM toys won't be sold, or unlikely to be sold that frequently, if at all, in say supermarkets. But in more specialized toy retailers or in online stores, you might find such toys available for sale. And that's what Happy Plays has to contend with. It has to be conscious of the trends and also try and figure out what the best way of purchasing these toys are. So that way then it remains competitive, crucially, against other players in the industry. Then the final industry example I'm going to look at is number 6. The Entertainer announces partnership with Tesco. So the UK's largest independent toy retailer, The Entertainer, is partnering with Tesco, and what it's going to do is open up branded stores in 35 Tesco stores across the country. This was actually announced this year in September 2022. Now, the trial partnership will offer Tesco customers the chance to shop at The Entertainer's large range of products. And it's also going to leverage its recent acquisition, so the Entertainer's recent acquisition of the Early Learning Centre, to sell young toddlers or babies' toys as well. Now, the Entertainer will retain full oversight of the product range, so Tesco aren't going to have any say in this. But the idea is that the two work together, so that way then the Tesco can attract the Entertainer's customers, and the Entertainers can leverage Tesco's customers to sell toys all year round. Now, why is this relevant? Well, we know that supermarkets occupy a significant chunk of the West Area toy market, and Happy Plays only has 10% of that market in total. So a partnership with supermarkets could help them get a piece of this pie, couldn't it? And what you would do in this kind of question is evaluate what a partnership with, say, a West Area supermarket would do in terms of adding value to Happy Plays' stores, right? So in the example paragraph we've got here, the Entertainer, the UK toy retail chain, is opening in-store shops inside select Tesco supermarkets across the UK. These retail partnerships are often wide-reaching and successful, as many children are drawn to displays when accompanying parents to supermarkets. We should discuss the possibility of partnering with large West Area supermarkets with Monica Junius, Operations Director, as well as reach customers who may not otherwise enter our toy stores, or reach those who would more frequently. Okay. This is one way in which it could be approached, sort of like as a discussion of an idea of a way in which the business could use partnerships to leverage its own. Another way in which this question or this type of example could be used You could even have a question on, say, how this kind of partnership would affect Happy Place's business model. For example, we could even have a question on how this kind of store-in-store partnership would affect the business model. For example, how would a partnership with some Westarian supermarket affect Happy Place's business model, focusing on capturing residual value as one of the criteria? And you would say that, well, part of capturing residual value for us is having conveniently located stores. And what's more convenient than having a store of ours inside of a supermarket, which gets a lot more foot traffic in general from a variety of different customers. For example, The Entertainer has partnered with Tesco, a supermarket in the UK, and The Entertainer is leveraging that partnership to attract Tesco's customers to their own stores. We could also do something like that with this Westarian supermarket and achieve some synergies, as well as promote our brand with one of our retail competitors, essentially. Obviously, verbalizing a solution like that doesn't work quite as well as when it's written down. But I hope you can see how, once again, I am not trying to describe the situation. I'm not trying to tell a story about how Tesco and The Entertainer are working together. I'm focusing on Westaria. I'm focusing on Happy Place. I'm focusing on the question. But what I'm doing in the solution is integrating some real-world example into it to assist and justify why it might be a good idea. Now, while I've got your attention at the end of this video, I'd like to make you aware of the other products that Astranti sell as part of the case study course. So the first of these is a series of study text and tuition videos, and these come in two flavors. You have our written study text if you prefer learning through reading, or you can watch our videos if you're more of a visual learner. Now, to start with, we have an exam technique study series, which breaks down how to succeed at various case study levels. We'll be looking at exam technique, writing style, and planning that you need to nail to be successful in your case study exams. And to accompany this, we also have a revision series dedicated to the theory side of things. This is because at the case study level, there is a large amount of theory you need to be capable of using in your case study exam. So what we've done here is we've taken the key areas of the theory from the 3 case study levels and condensed them into a series of chapters to help focus your revision. Moving away from the more generic products and onto the products that are specific to the case study pre-scene, the first of these is the pre-scene analysis video series. First and foremost, this contains a series of videos where we break down the relevant pre-scene at the appropriate level of the qualification, page by page. And throughout this video, we bring out all the key points that could be relevant for you in your exam, looking at various topics and things you might need to consider when revising for the case study. And then to supplement the pre-scene analysis, we also have 2 videos. We have the strategic analysis where we give a broad overview of what kind of strategy the pre-scene company is using and where it might be going in the future. And then we also look at the top 10 issues that we think this pre-scene company might be subject to and something that you may need to take into consideration when revising for the case study. We then provide an industry analysis document and accompanying video. CIMA like to see you demonstrate wider industry knowledge in your exam, and this is what this industry analysis does, as it gives you the wider industry knowledge you need in order to fulfill this requirement. Essentially what it is, it's a large document that we've compiled on all the relevant industry information that we have gathered so that you don't have to do the revision yourself. And then to accompany this, we of course have a video that goes over this document to pick out some of the key points for you if you prefer that. We also produce a number of mock exams for every sitting. We write 5 mock exams for the first exam sitting, and then we add 2 more supplementary mocks for the second exam sitting. We design these mocks around the specific issues relevant to the pre-scene and make them as close to the real thing as you will see in the case study exam as possible. So these are a great way to practice your exam technique and test your knowledge of the pre-scene company under timed conditions. And then to add value to this product, we also offer a marking and feedback service. So we have a range of highly skilled finance professionals working as freelance staff for us, and it is these staff that provide the marking and feedback service. So this is a great service to use in conjunction with our mock exams, as it gives you a great idea of how you're progressing in the areas you need to work on for your case study exam. And then if you're in need of extra exam practice, we also provide a more generic question pack product. So obviously there are only so many questions you could write about on a specific pre-scene. So what this question pack is a series of generic questions on generic scenarios that we come up with at Astranti, whereby we look to test specific topics that come up regularly in the case study exam. So if there is a particular topic you are struggling with and we've only tested once in our mocks, and you'd like more practice on it, then these question packs will be a great product for you to turn to. The penultimate product on this list is a product for those of you who would like to get a full overriding picture in terms of your revision all at once, and these are our masterclasses. So these are our expert tutors who hold 2 masterclasses every exam sitting, and these essentially cover all key aspects that you're going to need to know for your relevant exams. So from particular theories to analyses of the pre-scene, all the way through to tips and tricks you can use in your exam. And finally, such is the confidence we have in the quality of our product that if you do purchase a full course from us and you unfortunately do not pass your exam using our product, then we will offer what we call a pass guarantee. So if you did not pass your exam after purchasing our full course, then you will receive the materials for the next exam sitting free of charge. Okay, thank you very much for listening to that. I hope you find our products useful, and of course I would like to wish you the best of luck in your exam from everyone at Astranti. And if you enjoyed that video and would like to see more from us, be sure to like and subscribe, and consider following us on social media like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, or go to our website linked in the description.